Tay K opened the door and shot him.
What did you observe Tamor McIntyre do from the front passenger seat?
He shot him.
TK just found out his new release date, and it's not looking good at all, like not even close to getting out those prison walls anytime soon. But how did he go from being on top of the world to locked in for something as serious as a double homicide? Let's break it down. This story is wild from start to finish, no exaggeration. Go ahead.
So I'm going to sentence him to 80 years in the prison, give him credit for any time served. There is a $0 fine.
Pull up the Texas Department of Criminal Justice website right now. Seriously, check it yourself. Sitting there in an official government database clear as day, no rumors, no allegedly, is a release date that says August 8th, 2099. That's not a typo, not some system error, 2099, the year 2099. That's the kind of date you expect to see in a futuristic movie, not tied to a real person's life. But it's real, it's confirmed, and it's not changing anytime soon. That record belongs to Tamor Trayvon McIntyre, now 25 years old, better known as TK. And if you were online back in 2017, you already know the energy.
Tay K is up on murder charges, and everyone seems to be turning against him. So like the female, that was one of his co-defendants.
You remember the viral wave, the hashtags everywhere, and people in the rap scene quoting his lyrics like it was a badge of honor. But knowing how it started is one thing. Understanding why it started, what led up to it, and what was already going wrong before any fame or charges, that's a whole different story. Because this isn't just another rapper caught a case and fell off situation. It goes way deeper than that. This is about a kid who was already in survival mode long before music ever entered the picture. A kid who didn't trust the system because nothing around him ever proved it was there to protect him. A kid who looked at his reality and made choices step by step, choices that stacked up fast and only led one way. And when everything finally came crashing down, it didn't just hit him, it hit everyone around him too. Even people who had nothing to do with it at all. That's when things really spiraled out of control.
The race is over. 55 years. Ouch. And he has another murder trial to go.
So let's rewind all the way back, before the song, before the wanted poster, before the courtroom drama. Let's talk about where Tamor McIntyre's story really begins. He was born June 16th, 2000, right at the start of a brand new millennium when the country was celebrating a fresh era and big dreams. But inside his world, it was a completely different story. Nobody in his household was celebrating anything. His father was locked up during some of the most important years of his childhood, the years when a kid is trying to understand life, safety, and what's expected of him. Instead of stability, things kept falling apart. Child Protective Services stepped in and removed Tamor and his older sister, Caleb Beverly, from their home. From there, it was constant movement, different foster homes, different cities, even time spent out in Las Vegas. Nothing steady, nothing solid, no real sense of home. Eventually, their father got out and regained custody, and the family ended up in Arlington, Texas. But if it sounds like that was the turning point, it really wasn't. During TK's 2025 trial, Caleb Beverly took the stand and described what life in that home was really like. She shared serious claims about harsh punishments over small things like school performance and described moments that painted a very troubling picture of their environment. It was the kind of situation that no kid should have to grow up in.
Tay K just stood trial for a second murder case, found guilty again.
Yeah, they gave him 80, right?
80 years.
Throughout the trial, both parents were described as absent or unable to provide proper care. The household itself was portrayed as unstable, with ongoing struggles involving substance issues, mental health challenges, and criminal behavior in the family background. Experts even stepped in and called it a perfect storm. And honestly, it's hard to ignore how many things were working against him from the start. But let's be clear, because this part matters. None of that background excuses what came later. None of it erases the consequences or the impact on others. It just adds context to how everything built up over time. None of that wipes away charges. None of it changes what happened later. But if you really want to understand how someone ends up on a path like Tay K's, you can't just skip over this part. The environment matters. What someone grows up around matters. And what was building inside Tamor McIntyre long before anyone cared about his music, that didn't just come out of nowhere. Nothing about how things unfolded should have been shocking when you look at the full picture. By the time 2016 hit, he was only 15 years old and already stepping into situations way bigger than he should have been dealing with. On New Year's Day 2016, the first major violent incident connected connected to him showed up. He was riding in a car in Denton, Texas, when someone he was with, Eric Santana, also known as Sage Johnson, shot and killed a University of North Texas student named Sarah Muchlechner after an altercation that reportedly started over harassment claims involving people in that same car.
But as of right now, with them two testifying, he looking like he gonna be sunk. Cause you know, them powerful witnesses.
Now to be clear, Tamor wasn't the shooter. He wasn't charged and he didn't testify. Johnson was later convicted of murder and sentenced to 44 years, while Tamor walked away with no charges at all. Legally, he was in the clear. But look at the situation for what it was, a 15-year-old already dealing with instability and pressure, sitting in a car when something that serious happens. That kind of moment could have been a wake-up call for anyone, a chance to step back and rethink everything. Instead, nothing really changed. Same environment, same people, same direction. The warning signs were there, loud and clear, but they weren't being taken seriously. Fast forward just 6 months later, Tamor is now 16 years old, and on the night of July 26th, 2016, in Mansfield, Texas, everything that had been building around him, the choices, the influence, the chaos, was about to hit a whole new level. Everything finally slammed into a wall.
When you all were at the light on McCullough, you said Tamor produced his gun, correct?
Yes.
And who did Tamor have the gun pointed at?
Mark.
And this wasn't the kind of situation anyone could just walk away from like nothing happened. This was the moment where everything changed for real.
And what was Tamor saying when he had the gun pointed at Mark?
To give him his bag and Tay K.
Prosecutors said Tamor McIntyre helped plan a home invasion targeting a 17-year-old named Zachary Oliphant. The goal, go in, take drugs and money, and get out. That was the setup. According to reports, Megan Holt and Ariana Hart were supposed to get the door open, playing their role to lure the target into letting them in. Then Tamor and the rest of the group, Sean Robinson, Jalen Bell, and another individual moved in. Later on, during a recorded interrogation that lasted over 2 hours, Tamor admitted his role was to search the house for drugs. He claimed he wasn't supposed to be the one pulling the trigger. That wasn't part of his role in the plan.
Opened the door and shot him.
What did you observe Tamor McIntyre do?
But plans like that, they fall apart fast, especially when everything turns chaotic. During the invasion, Merritt allegedly fired shots that killed 21-year-old Ethan Walker, who was in the home. Reports say Walker was unarmed at the time. Another person inside the house was also injured during the incident. After that, everything unraveled quickly. 7 people ended up facing capital murder charges, and one by one, they started making deals. Ariana Hart took 25 years for aggravated robbery. Megan Holt got 20 years in exchange for cooperating. Sean Robinson received 40 years. Jalen Bell got 30. The other individual took 20 years. And Merritt, identified as the shooter, was sentenced to life without parole in 2018.
From the front passenger seat.
He shot him.
Do you see the person that shot Mark?
Everyone involved that night ended up cooperating with authorities. One after another, deals were made, and each one added more pressure on Tamor's situation. Nobody was staying silent, and information kept coming out from every direction. People were already talking about it publicly, breaking it down, trying to understand how it all unfolded. And for those who had seen cases like this before, the outcome was starting to look predictable. As one person familiar with the system explained it,
ran.
Well, whatever it was, it was
a 23-year-old.
Listen, it was a senseless murder to a person.
Two senseless
well, look,
murders.
2 senseless murders over camera equipment and stuff like that.
she had just taken 25 years instead of risking a 45-year capital murder sentence. That tells you everything you need to know. That means she was going to get on that stand and say everything she knew, no holding back at all. And when someone who had actually been through the system, someone who understood how these cases play out, was asked how things were looking for TK, there was no soft answer, no sugarcoating. The response was simple: sunk. That was it. And the wild part? That was before the second murder case even entered the picture. At this point, pressure was already coming from every angle, and things were only getting worse. So what did Tamor McIntyre do next? He did exactly what people later heard in the music. He ran! While all this legal pressure was building from the Mansfield case, he had been placed on house arrest in early 2017.
Anthony Saldivar in the courtroom today.
Yes.
Would you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
He had an ankle monitor on, legal representation, and technically still had a path through the court system, but on March 27th, 2017, he cut off that ankle monitor and disappeared. Just like that, gone. And this is where things go from risky to straight up unbelievable. Instead of laying low, he went online and told the world. He posted, basically announcing that he had broken house arrest and wasn't looking back. Think about that for a second. A 16-year-old already tied to a capital murder case, actively wanted by law enforcement, and he's broadcasting it like it's something to celebrate.
I swear.
That's not smart, and it's not thinking long-term. It shows either a complete disregard for consequences or someone so deep in survival mode that nothing else mattered in that moment.
He's wearing a white shirt.
Either way, what came next only made things worse, way worse, and it all connects to what happened after he went on the run, the music that followed, and the cases that kept stacking up. When Taymor cut that monitor and disappeared, he didn't go quiet. He didn't hide out or try to stay off the radar. Instead, he stayed visible, moving around and staying active while everything around him was heating up fast. That's not what happened at all. What really went down sounds almost unreal, but it's all documented. A 16-year-old fugitive, already wanted for a capital murder case, moving through Texas like nothing could touch him, gets involved in another killing, travels across states, records a song about it, and then gets arrested the very same day it drops. It sounds made up, but it's not.
Well, unlike Meek Mill, Tay K had a very dissimilar experience in court.
After cutting off that ankle monitor, Taymor McIntyre didn't disappear. He stayed active. At some point during that time, he made his way to San Antonio. And on April 23rd, 2017, things escalated again. According to reports, McIntyre and Jalen Bell approached 23-year-old photographer Mark Anthony Saldivar in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. The plan was to take his camera equipment. Surveillance footage later showed what happened next. Saldivar tried to stop them. He fought back and even jumped onto the hood of their SUV as they tried to leave. During that moment, McIntyre fired a shot and Saldivar lost his life at just 23 years old. This wasn't someone involved in any ongoing conflict. He was a creative, building his future through photography, and it all ended over equipment, something that likely wasn't even worth much in the bigger picture. Years later, people still look back at this moment trying to make sense of it, and one comment summed it up clearly. Senseless. There's no deeper explanation that changes what it was. Mark Saldivar wasn't part of any situation. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now his name is permanently connected to one of the most talked about cases in hip-hop, not because of anything he did, but because of what happened to him. And it didn't stop there. Reports say McIntyre was also involved in another robbery in Arlington on May 25th, 2017, where a 65-year-old man was assaulted and left unconscious in a park. This was during an active fugitive run, with incidents stacking up across different places.
What's up, bro?
At that point, it wasn't just one situation anymore, it was a pattern, moving from place to place, crossing lines, and leaving behind a trail of serious consequences for people who had nothing to do with any of it. And through all of it, every move, every incident, every day on the run, things were only building toward an outcome that was getting harder and harder to avoid. The feds were getting closer, bro was recording music, the race. If you weren't there when this thing dropped, it's hard to fully communicate what it felt like in real time because the circumstances were insane. A 16-year-old fugitive wanted on capital murder charges out of Tarrant County records. A song literally describing cutting off his ankle bracelet and refusing to take a case lying down and then gets arrested by U.S. Marshals on the exact same day. The song comes out June 30th, 2017. McIntyre gets locked up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, June 30th, 2017. The race drops on SoundCloud same day. The internet went absolutely feral. The free Tay K hashtag went up immediately and spread across every platform.
I see what you doing. Yeah, I'm straight. She gonna get
tell everybody here.
The track hit the Billboard Hot 100 at number 70 and peaked at number 44. Travis Scott, Kodak, Black Lil Yachty, Meek Mill Designer, they were all posting the lyrics, giving it the cosign. The music video had him standing next to his own wanted poster like it was a flex. Tyga and Rico Nasty dropped remixes. His management pushed the Santana World mixtape out from Tarrant County Jail and it entered the Billboard 200. The whole culture was locked in. The song has since crossed 255 million YouTube views and over 400 million Spotify streams. Those are numbers that most artists spend entire careers chasing. And here's what makes all of that almost tragically poetic, if you want to call it that. The same song that made him famous was going to get played back to a jury during his sentencing and used as evidence of flight from justice and zero remorse. The record that launched the career was also a key piece of the prosecution's case, Lord Jamar, and the homie broke it down on Vlad TV at the time. Because the vibe was, everybody was watching this, like it might go different, like maybe the wave could carry him through somehow, and then the verdict landed and it was a whole different energy. 55 years for the first case, and another murder trial still incoming. The wave couldn't carry him through none of it. Certified to be tried as an adult. Tay Hayes, Tarrant County proceedings kicked off July 15, 2019. He went in and immediately pled guilty on the 2 robbery counts. But he contested the murder charge, arguing he didn't anticipate the shooting wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, and that Ethan Walker's death shouldn't fall on him legally. The prosecution came in with a powerful argument: Texas law of parties. And what that means is simple but serious. If you're part of a group committing a crime and someone ends up dead, everyone involved can be held responsible for that death, no matter who actually pulled the trigger.
He coming too. He coming.
It's just a regular little watch.
That law played a huge role in how this case unfolded. On July 19, 2019, the jury found Tamor McIntyre guilty of murder. Then came sentencing, and this is where things took a turn that really stood out. Prosecutors played parts of the race right there in the courtroom. They used his own lyrics as evidence, arguing that it showed he knowingly ran from the law and didn't show remorse. Just imagine that, your own music, something you created, being used against you in court. It's one of those moments that doesn't even feel ironic. It feels heavy, like everything coming full circle in the worst way possible.
Huh? We about the same height.
He said he been working out too.
On July 23rd, 2019, the sentence was handed down. 55 years for murder, along with additional time for robbery charges running at the same time, plus a $21,000 fine. Parole eligibility was set at around 28 years served. Online, people had a lot to say. Some called it tragic, others said it was expected, and many pointed to wasted potential. There were also conversations about how the viral energy behind the race back in 2017 didn't really match the seriousness of the charges he was facing.
You getting big though, bro. I see you getting big, bro.
Tell him you love him.
Yeah, I love you though, bro.
The Dallas hip-hop scene got quiet after that. What once felt like a movement, Free Tay K, started to fade, turning into something people look back on rather than rallied around. But even with all that, the story wasn't finished yet, because Bexar County was still waiting. After being indicted on capital murder charges there in November 2019, that second case stayed open for years. Then in February 2024, McIntyre made a major decision. He turned down a plea deal and chose to fight it in court. The trial finally began on April 1st, 2025 in the 187th District Court under Judge Stephanie Boyd, and it moved fast, just 7 days total. But every single day came with evidence, testimony, and details that kept building the case piece by piece. The prosecution came prepared and they came heavy. They had surveillance footage of the actual shooting. They had testimony from co-defendants. And on top of that, they brought in someone even closer to Tamor, his ex-girlfriend, Joanna Reyes. She took the stand and testified about what she knew, explaining her role in the events leading up to the San Antonio case. Think about that for a second. The person he had been closest to, someone he was around every day, now sitting in court as a witness for the prosecution. That's not just damaging for a case, that hits on a whole different level. Now here's where things get important legally. Tamor was 16 at the time of that incident, which meant Texas law didn't allow for automatic life without parole or the death penalty. Instead, the sentencing range was between 5 and 99 years or life. On April 14th, 2025, the jury found him guilty of murder. And just 1 day later, April 15th, they handed down the sentence, 80 years. No additional fine this time, but still a massive amount of time. Before he was taken out of the courtroom, Judge Stephanie Boyd addressed him directly, saying, reminding him that despite everything, he still had a chance to change his path moving forward. The reaction in the courtroom was intense. His family responded emotionally, and security had to step in and remove them. Outside the courtroom, Bexar County DA Joe Gonzalez made it clear that fame doesn't change accountability. No matter who you are, the law applies the same. Online, the reactions came in fast. People were shocked. Comments like 80 years flooded timelines, along with memes and debates about how everything played out. And when discussions popped up in interviews and conversations, people broke it down in a direct way. No filters. Now here's how it all connects. That 80-year sentence from Bexar County runs at the same time as the 55-year sentence from Tarrant County. But because the longer sentence takes priority, that's the one that defines the timeline. 2 separate trials, 2 murder convictions, 5 total convictions when you include the robbery charges, and all of that leads to one number that's been going viral everywhere. The projected release date, August 8th, 2099. It sounds unreal, but it's confirmed. This isn't just social media exaggeration or rumors spreading around. You can actually look it up yourself through the Texas Department of Criminal Justice System. Search the inmate database, enter the ID number 025591115, and right there on the screen, in that plain official format, you'll see it for yourself. That same plain government font they use for everything. No emotion, no drama, just facts on a screen, and right there, one number started going viral, 26,807. That's how many days were left on Tay K's sentence when people started doing the math in early 2026, 26,807 days for someone who's only 25 years old. Sit with that for a second because that number hits different when you really think about it. Tamor McIntyre, TDCJ number 025591115, is currently housed at the John B. Connolly Unit in Karnes County, Texas. His maximum sentence date, August 8th, 2099. His projected release date, the exact same, August 8th, 2099. Now look at the parole side. The earliest he could even be considered for release is August 7th, 2049. By that time, he'd be around 49 years old. That means his entire 20s, his entire 30s, and most of his 40s would be spent behind the walls of a maximum security prison. The years most people call their prime, all gone in one place, and that's only if everything goes perfectly at the first parole review, which is far from guaranteed. In reality, the odds are tough. The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles looks at a lot. Offense severity, criminal history, behavior while incarcerated, input from victims' families, and clear signs of rehabilitation. All of that gets stacked together before any decision is made. Now compare that to what's on his record. 2 murder convictions, multiple aggravated robbery convictions involving firearms, an escape from house arrest, reports of rule violations while in custody. All of that becomes part of the evaluation. So when that review comes up in 2049, it won't be simple at all. Historically, parole approval rates for people with multiple violent convictions in Texas sit around 30 to 45%, and even then, many face repeated denials. Each denial can push the next review back years, sometimes 5, sometimes even 10. So if he's denied in 2049, the next chance might not come until much later. And here's another layer to it. His own music, what made him famous, was already used in court proceedings. That history doesn't just disappear, it can still shape how decision makers view his mindset over time. So when everything gets put together, the convictions, the timeline, the parole process, it paints a picture that's a lot more complicated than just one date on a screen. The TDCJ record keeps it straight to the point. No spin, no confusion. It literally says inmate is not scheduled for release at this time. That's it. No extra explanation, no loopholes sitting there waiting to be used. The only thing still hanging is the legal side. After the Bexar County decision, defense attorney John Hunter filed a motion for a new trial. But Judge Boyd shut that down around May 23rd, 2025, saying there wasn't enough there to justify it. Before that, a notice of appeal had already been filed on May 21st, 2025 with the Texas Fourth Court of Appeals. As of March 2026, that appeal is still pending, no reversal, no new trial, and no change to the sentence. And when you look at the earlier appeals tied to the Tarrant County case, those didn't change anything either when it comes to custody status. So yes, the legal process is still active, but realistically, the chances of it flipping everything around are extremely low. As of March 20th, 2026, there are no solid reports pointing to any real path for early release. That door isn't completely locked, but it's barely open, and nothing is pushing it wider right now. Now here's the part people don't really talk about enough. Outside, people joke about 2099 and turn it into memes, but inside, that number looks very different when you're actually living it day by day. Because this isn't just about a date, it's about what life has looked like for Tamor since he was 17 years old. Back in August 2018, while in Tarrant County Jail, officers found a hidden cell phone in his sock. That led to disciplinary action and time in solitary confinement after additional reports about disruptive behavior on the unit. Then in March 2019, there were allegations that he was trying to organize a group inside the facility described as being affiliated with a gang. Reports claimed there were even written rules and structure behind it. That kind of activity only led to more restrictions and tighter supervision. Informant tips, internal reports, all of it added pressure while he was already dealing with a capital murder trial. So while everything was building on the outside, in courtrooms, in headlines, online discussions, inside, his reality was already shifting into something much more controlled, much more limited, and way more serious than most people scrolling through clips ever stop to think about. That kind of behavior doesn't just disappear. It follows you into every single parole hearing down the line. Every report, every incident, every note in the file, it all stacks up. Around 2023, a message believed to be from him started circulating saying the institution was treating me very bad. And when you look at everything reported, years of isolation, constant monitoring, and repeated scrutiny, it lines up with what someone in that situation might be experiencing. And there were also reports earlier on, after his arrest, that he claimed to be hearing things and had to be evaluated in a psychiatric setting. That led to time being observed and assessed, adding another layer to everything already going on. During the 2025 sentencing, a forensic psychologist spoke about how early trauma combined with years of confinement and isolation can build into serious long-term mental health challenges. That's not something that just fades away. It can grow more complicated over time, especially in high-security environments. And then there's the human side of it, the part people don't always see. His sister Kayla took the stand during sentencing, trying to show the jury who he was beyond the charges. But even in that moment, she couldn't physically get close to him. No hug, no real contact because of the restrictions in place. That kind of distance becomes normal in situations like this. Reports have said communication with family has been limited and inconsistent over time. And when you look at his personal life, there's not much publicly showing ongoing relationships. No confirmed children, no long-term partner, and no consistent connection that's been documented since Joanna Reyes, the same person who later testified in court. Think about that for a second. The one known close relationship turning into part of the prosecution's case, that's not just a setback. That's something that stays with you mentally over time. And when incarceration starts that early, before someone even reaches full adulthood, it can cut off major life milestones completely. Things most people experience naturally in their 20s. Building relationships, starting a family, creating a stable life, those opportunities become much harder to reach. Instead, everything gets replaced with routines, restrictions, and distance. Communication through glass, limited contact, controlled movement, that becomes the reality. And year after year, that kind of environment doesn't just pause life. It reshapes it in ways that are hard to fully understand from the outside looking in. That kind of behavior doesn't just disappear, it follows you into every single parole hearing down the line. Every report, every incident, every note in the file, it all stacks up. Around 2023, a message believed to be from him started circulating, saying the institution was treating me very bad. And when you look at everything reported, years of isolation, constant monitoring, and repeated scrutiny, it lines up with what someone in that situation might be experiencing. There were also reports earlier on after his arrest that he claimed to be hearing things and had to be evaluated in a psychiatric setting. That led to time being observed and assessed, adding another layer to everything already going on. During the 2025 sentencing, a forensic psychologist spoke about how early trauma combined with years of confinement and isolation can build into serious long-term mental health challenges. That's not something that just fades away. It can grow more complicated over time, especially in high-security environments. And then there's the human side of it, the part people don't always see. His sister Kayla took the stand during sentencing, trying to show the jury who he was beyond the charges. But even in that moment, she couldn't physically get close to him, no hug, no real contact, because of the restrictions in place. That kind of distance becomes normal in situations like this. Reports have said communication with family has been limited and inconsistent over time. And when you look at his personal life, there's not much publicly showing ongoing relationships. No confirmed children, no long-term partner, and no consistent connection that's been documented since Joanna Reyes, the same person who later testified in court. Think about that for a second. The one known close relationship turning into part of the prosecution's case, that's not just a setback, that's something that stays with you mentally over time. And when incarceration starts that early, before someone even reaches full adulthood, it can cut off major life milestones completely. Things most people experience naturally in their 20s. Building relationships, starting a family, creating a stable life, those opportunities become much harder to reach. Instead, everything gets replaced with routines, restrictions, and distance. Communication through glass, limited contact, controlled movement, that becomes the reality. And year after year, that kind of environment doesn't just pause life. It reshapes it in ways that are hard to fully understand from the outside looking in. So all of this started before he was even old enough to legally vote, sign contracts on his own, or rent a car. The career came in loud and then ended just as fast, but way quieter than people expected. Everything that was supposed to follow that early buzz, the tours, the albums, the growth, the long-term success, none of it happened. Instead, it all got swallowed by a sentence that now stretches into the next century. Ever since that 2099 date started going viral in early 2026, people have been reacting heavy, calling it crazy, brutal, unreal, and one thing is clear, this isn't some comeback story waiting to happen. Online, the conversation is split straight down the middle. On one side, you still have people posting free Tay K or laughing it off, talking about wasted potential and what could have been. Some even treat it like the culture lost something, but on the other side, people are keeping it real and bringing the focus back to what actually happened. 2 people lost their lives and multiple families were changed forever. And they're saying the constant glorification of that fugitive rapper image ignores the real impact of those actions. That debate hasn't gone anywhere. It's still active right now. TikTok, YouTube, reaction channels, they keep revisiting this story, breaking it down as a warning. Young decisions, permanent consequences, the difference between 2017 and now hits hard. It shows how fast things can flip from viral success to a life behind bars. Even online forums and discussions are starting to shift. Less nostalgia, more reality. People are comparing the hype back then to what things actually look like today, and it's not even close. And when people who've been around situations like this talk about it, they keep it simple. One comment that stood out said it best, 2 people. That's it. That's what everything comes back to. Behind all the streams, the memes, the headlines, and the debates, there are real lives that were lost. Ethan Walker, 21 years old, a father. Mark Anthony Saldivar, 23, a photographer building his future. They were just living their lives, and now their names are tied to something they never chose to be part of. Their families are still here. They didn't get viral moments. They didn't get recognition on that same level, and they're the ones still carrying the weight of what happened. And then there's Taymor McIntyre, 25 years old right now. Parole eligibility set for 2049. Maximum sentence date, 2099. He started serving time before he was even legally an adult, and by the time he even gets a real shot at parole, he'll be close to 50 years old. The gap between who he was back then, a teenager with talent, energy, and the ability to grab attention, and who he is now, it's huge. Now it's a number in a system, time counting down day by day with tens of thousands of days still left. That contrast right there, that's the real takeaway. Not the hype, not the memes, not the music going viral, but how fast everything changed and what it led to. The race didn't just slow down, it stopped, and what's left now isn't momentum. It's time, ticking forward every single day. If you made it this far, drop a comment and let me know what you think about this whole situation. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tapped in for more stories like this. I'll catch you on the next one.